Hey everyone, Cobra here and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're on West Game 2 and I'm going to be going over the best heroes in the game, in particular for different situations such as for rally joiners, for rally leaders, PvP attacking, PvP defending, kind of giving you a general who's good and who's not. And then I also have some tier lists for you that I made myself with a little bit of help from some of the Discord moderators. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get right into it. We're going to start by going over the best troops to use for rally joiners, meaning people who are actually joining the rally, not people who are starting it. So I'm going to pull up this chart right here for you. Now, for rally joiners, you'll see that the best one to use is, of course, going to be Billy the Kid, because he is overall the best. He's going to be an S tier hero in every single scenario here. You'll see his on the map battle skills. He increases troop damage dealt, increases troop attack, and reduces troop damage taken. So he's got 3 combat skills, 2 of them for attack, 1 for taking less damage. That's about the best combination that you can get. And what's important to note is for rally joiners, you want to have your top right skill, which is the one I'm highlighting right now. That skill needs to be something related to attack if you're joining someone else's rally. Reason for this is, with rallies, attack is everything, because it's not like you're battling it out to see how many of your troops are going to die or get wounded. No, you just want to deal the most damage you can. And so you want one of 4 different heroes that have these top right skills that are going to deal increased attack or increased damage. And it will... So when you're joining, you want to set one of these 4 as your first hero, meaning, here, I'll just go to attack something. So if I was going to start one, you'll see how the one on the left has a flag by it. You want that one to be either Billy the Kid or one of the other 3 that I'm going to show you right now, because only that top right skill is actually going to apply for the joiner, and it's only of their first hero that they pick. I know it's a little confusing, but I will show you again in a minute here. But so he is the best one. You can see on the list the S tier in this scenario. Other really good ones to use that are also acceptable for joiners. You've got Maeve, because hers is increases troop damage dealt with an additional increase when rallying. So that puts her basically rivaling for rallies, rivaling Billy's. Then you've got, in addition to hers, Emily here, which is the exact same thing. And then you've got Red Cloud here, which is troop attack. So those are the 4. So you've got troop damage dealt, troop attack. And honestly, you probably want the troop damage dealt so over the troop attack, because attack, if you have 100 versus 104%, that's only so much, but damage dealt is after applying all bonuses. So in reality, 25% damage dealt increased is going to make more of a difference than a 25% attack bonus. So Maeve, Emily, and Billy are going to be the 3 best, with Red Cloud also being the next best. So you'll see I have Billy listed as the S tier, just because his other abilities are better than the rest of these guys. And then the 3 A tiers, which are the other ones that are acceptable to use when joining. And then we start to get into the other ones which do not use as your first one when joining. And I'm going to go show you this right here. This is a battle I just had. I'm trying to see if it'll show. Okay. So you see how one hero is shown. It's because that is their first one, and that is the one that is applying. This particular one doesn't actually help me. Neither does that. That one's all right. But you want that one to be one of these 4 because that will make the biggest difference. Now, in this case, I'm pretty sure most of these were auto joins, so that happens. But when doing things like the bearer rallies, that kind of stuff, you want to have one of these 4 because that will increase the most. Now, other honorable mentions for the other people, meaning your second and third in your lineup. John Hex is a good one. You know, he's got reduced damage taken, increased damage, and then increased attack. Now, the only reason why he's not quite as good as Billy, and you'll see this in other things as well, is because his are partially chance-based. He's got 50% chance to increase troop damage by a lot, and a 80% chance to increase decrease troop damage taken. So it's not as consistent, but has really good potential. So you just don't want to have too much chance to that. He would be one of the B tiers. Danielle is another B tier, which, you know, reduced troop damage taken, increased troop attack, and increased troop damage dealt. So she's got basically the same 3 abilities as Billy, but what makes her not as good in this scenario is the fact that her first one just reduces damage taken, so it's not actually going to be good for a joiner. Now, if you're actually doing this on, like, if you're the one hosting, that's completely different because, you know, you just want to use your 3 best. But for joining, she's, you know, good as one of the other ones, but not your main one. And then the other one that I would put as a B tier is going to be Ezekiel right here because he reduces damage taken and then also increases troop attack. So those are going to be your S, A, and B tiers. The resource gathering ones, the blue ones, have no combat abilities whatsoever. They're about as worst as you can get. E tier is going to be Wyatt because he really doesn't help with anything unless you're hunting things, but even that, he doesn't give you stat boosts. Mary because hers just reduces the enemy attack and increases march speed. And then Mari because all she does is reduce enemy attack by a little bit. So those are going to be ones that you definitely don't want to use for any sort of rallies. But the biggest thing to remember with the rallies when joining is make sure that your first one is one of those S or A tiers. Now we'll go ahead and we will switch over to now go over PvP attacking. So for PvP attacking, you're going to notice once again Billy is at the top, and we already went over that. But also Danielle is now tied for S tier with Billy. And the reason is, like I said in the first part, the rally one, she has the same abilities as Billy, just in a different order. When attacking, since it's just you, there's no rally involved. It doesn't matter the order that you have the skills in. All of your skills for all of your heroes will be active when you're attacking. So they are equals in this aspect. So she's another amazing one. Now, if you have both of them, even better. The next one you're going to want, John Hex, is another really good one. I put him as the A tier for this because he's got the chance to reduce damage taken, chance to increase damage significantly, and just a basic attack increase. Now, you want to make sure that when you're attacking, I highly recommend only using one person with chance-based skills, just because if you're using multiple people that all have chance-based skills, you have a potential to do a ton of damage, but you have a potential to suck really bad too. If you don't get those, those, we'll call it dice rolls, the probability. If you don't win that probability and you don't trigger that ability, you're going to end up losing. So you want to make sure that you have, maybe have just John Hex in, and then 2 that don't have probability-based abilities, keep it safe like that, because otherwise you're taking a big gamble. But he is a solid, A tier. B tier is going to be somewhat similar to the other ones. This one we throw in Calamity Jane, because she's got this that it increases defense and health, as well as this that increases troop damage. So that's good. You've got Maeve again, because she's got the ability that increases troop damage and then reduces troop damage. You've got Dolores, because she reduces troop damage and has a chance to increase troop damage. But like I said before, I would recommend not using Dolores and John Hex, because they both have that 50% chance to increase damage dealt, because then you're taking 2 50% chances in one battle, and that's really risky. But if you're only using one of the two, then they're both solid choices. And then Ezekiel is another solid choice, reduces damage taken, and increased troop attack. Now, something to keep in mind, when you are attacking, you want to prioritize attack and damage, but defense-based abilities also are relevant, which is why you'll see, like, Calamity Jane making an appearance, because she's got the one that increases defense and health, because, that's still helpful, but not quite as helpful as that attack boost. However, then you've got the ones such as Mary, where all she does is reduce the enemy attack, or Mari, which all she does is reduce the enemy attack, that fall a little bit lower on that list, as well as Big Bart, because his abilities are both defense-based, reducing enemy attack and reducing damage dealt. So he falls a little bit lower on this list too. And same as always, the blues are not helpful in combat scenarios unless you literally have no other heroes, because they really have no beneficial abilities. So this is for PvP attacking. Now we'll go ahead and we'll switch over to PvP defense. For PvP defending, it's going to be a very similar list to PvP attacking, but with just a few changes. And the big changes there is you're going to see that the B tier is more narrow. There's more C's instead. Overall, S plus, or which is the equivalent of S, and then John Hex. Those, top 3 still stay the same. Those are, in my opinion, the 3 most solid. They've got 3 combat-based abilities, very good ones. A tier is going to be identical as well. Where it starts to change is for defending, you're going to notice that Bart is going to be the only B tier, because he's got reduced troop damage taken and reduced enemy attack. So he's got 2 defense-based abilities, which is helpful. Whereas the ones for attacking that we had put in that same tier, which are Red Cloud and Emily, they have one single attack-based ability. And since it's only one that increases attack, for defense, that's not really as helpful. And so for this, we're putting them down to a C tier, which is the equivalent of a D tier on the other chart. I'm sorry for the inconsistency there. I don't know why I classified one as starting with S plus and one is starting with S, but that's the difference there. But so basically they drop down into a tier below for defense. Everything else is going to be the exact same. For defense, you want to prioritize a mix of health and damage, defense, health, and damage, similar to attack, except for defense, the health and defense ones are a little bit more prominent, because rather than trying to kill all of the enemy troops, you're trying to make sure your troops survive. Now, the only reason why the top 3 remain are because those are the only 3 that have 3 combat-based abilities, and so those keep their spots. The A tier, you know, they each have 2 combat-based abilities, and so those are staying there. B tier, Bart has 2 defense-based abilities, so basically he keeps your guys alive, but he doesn't actually help fight anything. Like damage-wise, he just stops your guys from dying as much. C tier isn't going to be very super helpful, you know, a little bit. D tier and the resource people are not going to help whatsoever. So that's going to be for defending. So overall, the consensus is Billy the Kid is definitely the all-around hero, which makes sense because he is the hardest, basically impossible to get without either saving up a ton and ranking top 10 in an event in the very beginning or purchasing through packs, which is unfortunate, but I'm sure that at some later point, you know, it's possible he might be made available. But a good close second is Danielle Moonlight, who has the same abilities just in a different order, which is why she's just a little bit worse for rally joiners. But other than that, she's just as solid. Now, I did say that I would go over starting a rally versus joining a rally. Now, for starting a rally, you don't have to put any particular hero first. You just want to use your top 3 heroes. And then that's what you're going to use. So go off of just, you know, there's a pretty general pattern with these charts, you know, on which heroes are the best. Try not to use any of the lowest tier ones. Just use the highest tier that you have, you know, that are reasonably leveled and ranked up. But basically just use your 3 best heroes. If you're joining, like I said, you want to make sure that you have one of the 4, either Billy the Kid, Emily, Red Cloud, or Maeve. Preferably Maeve, Emily, or Maeve, Emily, or Billy the Kid would be the 3 best, with Red Cloud falling close behind for actual joiners as your first one. And like I said, in order to see that first one, when you go to join something, you're going to see the one with the flag by it. So I would uncheck this, and I would go, for my first one, I want this to be Maeve. Perfect. You know, and then you'd pick whatever your next best 2 are. You know, you'd go like that, essentially. Granted, you want to make sure that you have a variety. You don't necessarily want to send all the same type. But this should give you guys a good sense of who is worth using. And like I said, blue ones are, if you can avoid using them, every single one of the purple ones is going to be better than them for combat, even if they, you know, don't have very good abilities. It's because blue really does not help hardly at all. And it's pretty similar with that across all these similar games. But I hope these rankings were helpful for you in this explanation as well. If you have any particular questions, you want me to explain anything in more depth, please let me know. I'm always happy to help you. Ask me questions in the comments. Give me suggestions for other videos that you want to see. And please like the video and subscribe. Share it with your friends. The more support that I get for these videos, the more of these that I am able to keep making for you guys. I'm trying to reach a goal of 1,000 subscribers within the next few months. So please drop a subscribe and share my channel with some other people so that we can get this going and I can keep putting out this content for you guys. And I will see you guys next time.